Hi everyone, it's Vita here. If you have made it to this video, then there's a chance you've already seen the first video that I posted about the Pulse Orlando shooting. If you haven't seen that video, you're probably going to want to go back and watch it so you have context to what the syllabus is about and everything that we're about to mention. So, let's get into it. Let's just begin at the beginning. The Pulse Orlando syllabus. What is it? Why is it important? What does it contain? We're going to answer those questions. The Pulse Orlando syllabus is currently being described as a living, evolving document that's made up of suggested readings, articles, all sorts of things like that. It was created by two trans librarians who wondered out of curiosity. You know, there had been the Lemonade syllabus, and there had been like the Black Lives Matter syllabus, and they were wondering, had anyone started a Pulse Orlando syllabus yet? The answer to the question was, yeah, they did. It's really cool that they thought to do that and to reach out and look into those spaces. Let's talk more about them. The contributors primarily are Oliver Bendorf and Lydia Willoughby. They are the two trans librarians that got the syllabus up and running. There is one person I want to mention, but I think that requires a story first. Before we move on and get into details about the syllabus, I want to read you the syllabus's statement of intention. This living document exists as a resource to understand our pain and grief, sadness and healing in the wake of the Pulse nightclub shooting on June 12, 2016. We are living through each other, and within our collective knowledge of LGBTQ+ and QTPOC spaces, we make visible the deep cultural heritages of Latinx communities among queer subcultures. We reject the erasure of queer Muslims and the targeting of the Muslim community in general, and the erasure of the reality that the stark majority of lives lost at Pulse were people of color. We ask contributors to resist racist, homophobic, classist, misogynistic citing practices, and to amplify the voices of Pulse. The intention is not to create another syllabus of gay whiteness. That is a very, very important part of the rest of this video, because what you'll see in spite, and as we talked about autonomous erasure in the last video, almost immediately, right, was the entitlement of gay whiteness imposing itself on the syllabus. Early into the creation of the syllabus, there were many white people inserting very white queer philosophy and material into the syllabus, which is explicitly the opposite of its statement of intention, which means that they either glanced over the statement of intention as unimportant, or they read it and chose not to abide by that intention. There was something really bothering about that to someone who I'm going to mention in this video, and actually to a few people. And so what happened was they put a stop to that right away. Yeah, that was a really important thing that happened. Let's get into that a little bit. As we know, TQPOC are no strangers to the whitewashing of our history. If you look at this wonderful gem over here, need I say anything else? Or if we pay attention to the anti-blackness and the horrific behaviors and writings and triggering scripts of this wonderful writing staff from Orange is the New Black. You notice that orange isn't exactly the new black, orange isn't exactly the new brown either. Oh wait, apparently orange is the new white. Whoops, I guess we all got confused because they were posting a lot of stuff that put Black Lives Matter voices into the mouths of white people, for example. So we're no strangers to our history being whitewashed. So what happened was an awesome friend of mine who is a writer herself and who is also a poet, Venus Selenite, was essentially notified of the whitewashing through Jamie Burrow, a trans-Mexican writer who had been adding works of trans and queer people of color to the document itself. Venus gets notified of it, and there was some criticisms that were very explicitly discussed. So Venus, being the badass that she is and the unapologetic black trans woman that she is, went right to work, hopped on Twitter, and was very adamant about this idea that, quote-unquote, the Pulse Orlando syllabus should have only work by trans and queer people of color, no white people. Venus later goes on to contact directly over Twitter Oliver Bendorf and Lydia Willoughby. Question, who's the syllabus for? The because there's a lot of white people listed here, and that appears to be revisionist. Oliver Bendorf would respond on Twitter, yes, Pulse Orlando syllabus is too white as it stands, needs to change, thank you. Goes on to tag Lydia Willoughby. Her response, very similar. Same question, who's the syllabus for? Because there's a lot of people listed and that appears to be revisionist. Lydia Willoughby would go on to respond, agreed, it needs to change. It matters who is cited. So on top of catching that erasure immediately, Venus was also made a core collaborator and an editor for the Pulse Orlando syllabus itself. Just to recap, okay, whitewashing happened, black trans woman called that shit out, black trans woman now on the staff? I do believe we have a song for people like that. Cue the music.
Bitch, 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 I'm a boss ass bitch, 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 bitch.
So, now that we've done that, yes, Venus Selenite is now a core collaborator, an editor, and will also be a contributor to the finished product of the Orlando syllabus itself. Venus, props to you for being awesome and a boss-ass bitch. Props to everyone who's gotten the syllabus together, and props to everyone who's keeping that erasure out. We don't need it. We already have enough. Y'all will get something else. Y'all always do. Real talk. Now, I want to highlight a couple really important sections in the syllabus that I thought were so important and so wonderful for existing there. The first one that came to my eyes immediately was the self-care section. It's like, oh my god, yes, a syllabus that says that black and brown, trans and queer people need self-care. So important. So important. It's rare in the world of social justice, or in life in general for that matter, as trans and queer people of color, that we really get to slow down or stop moving altogether in order to take care of ourselves and center ourselves every once in a while in whatever type of life we live. Most of the time, that's a circumstantial thing. There's jobs that don't give you time off, you know? How many people after hearing about that shooting had to go to work the next day and the next day and hear people already telling jokes about it, because that's the type of sensitivity the world has to black and brown bodies now. So there were a lot of people who had to get up the next day and do that and write the articles and take the photos and go to work and see it on the news, improperly reported on the news. It's also important to recognize that in this particular case, because the erasure is something that is happening so quickly, a lot of us are having to put ourselves back in that situation or back in that state of mind, or re-trigger ourselves and re-traumatize ourselves just to make sure that people are getting the story right. And so there's not really a lot of time for us to take a break. And so it's really important that the syllabus has included something that we don't really get to access that often. It doesn't necessarily mean we'll get to access it easier, but we know that it exists, and we know that we have a right to it. And that's why I think it's important that it's in there. The other one that I think is really important is the section that has resources for K through 12, meaning grade school, like high school, middle school, that sort of thing. This is important, especially now, because we're seeing more younger people coming out as transgender. We're seeing people know that they were transgender and be able to express that from the age of 5. And that's something that's really, really important and powerful. I understand that there's a lot of privileges connected to being in a household where you can come out that young and begin transitioning and living authentically that young. There's a lot of privileges involved. A lot of us don't have that privilege to have grown up or to help raise a young person within the realm of acceptance for being who they are. But the reason that information is important is because we have to start developing a language for our young people as they start seeing these atrocities happen and they start being able to comprehend what those atrocities are. Because so many of them are doing it at a younger age now and becoming more aware at a younger age now. We gotta be able to break it down for them. We can't go to these young people with a whole bunch of jargon and a whole bunch of academic wording. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work at all. So we have to start building information and resources for our younger generations of trans and queer youth of color Like, we gotta have it. We gotta have it. The other thing that I think is really important about having K through 12 information and resources is that they know what's happening. They know what's gonna be coming next. That's a really important thing. The better prepared they are, the better chances they'll have. You know, we gotta think about that too. A lot. Mental health resources are also included in the syllabus for a lot of the same reasons that I am happy about the self-care section being included. I'm very excited about this idea that we are affirming our need for mental health resources, that we are acknowledging as a people that those are things that we need. There's so much of a societal belief that our pain isn't real that we sometimes begin to internalize that. I know personally I've done that. I've done that so many times. This idea that, you know, my pain isn't real because I'm insert marginalization here and I'm not real. You know, and if I'm real, I'm something that needs to be corrected or there's something wrong with me, and that's how it goes, and that's what it's like. So to us, this idea of receiving mental health care, it's very new and sometimes hasn't even shown up in the lives of some black and brown folks. So that's really important to have there. The things that you probably already expect in a syllabus: scholarly articles as well as articles from popular news sources, movies. If you go to the movie section, you know, just please be aware if there are any trigger warnings. If they're not trigger warning the videos, it might be a suggestion for someone to make. I might even make it myself, just to make sure that everything's okay. And that people aren't going to be re-traumatized by going to the syllabus. What does this mean? What does this mean to have a syllabus that is living and moving in real time and for it to be one of a few now, right? What does that mean? And why is that important? It gives us an opportunity to use part of the system against itself. There are enough of us now who have developed a language and have gotten around some of the academic hurdles, which are in themselves inherently racist and classist, to digest this information, to analyze this information, and then to report back. That is really, really important for a lot of us who are getting into this and are trying to do this until they no longer can, or until something circumstantial takes the need to do it away. And being able to report, analyze, and document information as it happens, we are also able to get that information to as many people as possible. We make it accessible, and the world knows what goes on, on the other side. Because of that ability, we now can do things like start a Google document and have it have submissions from people theoretically all over the planet, and we can all contribute to each other's worlds in ways that will hopefully help get us free. That's a really big deal. There's also an increase in perspective thinking, like this idea of life being about perspective. What I mean by that is that we're opening our minds to this idea that there are worlds outside of our own that are going through struggles, that are going through all sorts of situations that we might not have known about otherwise, without that information being so readily available. Think of how long it took you to get a letter from someone. Now think about how long it takes to send a text message, no matter where you are in the world. That is a really powerful tool that we have now, because we can use that in a way that will allow us to always be in touch with one another. If we want to be and we're willing ourselves to be, we can do that. It's there. Once we realize what our privileges are, not only across the country but across the world, then we can better band together and figure out how to allocate those resources and how to allocate those privileges to people across the planet who are going through things very similar to what we're going through, but probably don't have as many tools as we do to weather that and to navigate that. So that's also really important. There's something that humanity can do that it hasn't been able to do at this speed, I don't think, ever. And that's the ability to evolve in real time across borders. We all begin to grow together because there's no time where we don't have a lot of access to each other. Like, there's so many ways to reach someone now, and it's a brilliant thing. I go online all the time and I see new relationships, I see strengthened friendships, I see comrades come together and join each other, organizations being handled just online. You know, I'm witnessing all of that stuff as it's happening in real time. And this is the first time, I think, in my life that I've seen it so close to what would be happening if we were in the same room with one another. I really think it gives us a chance to make some sort of an impact. That's a really big deal. I've been saying that a lot of things in this video are a really big deal, but the syllabus is a really big deal. Just like Beyonce's Lemonade syllabus was a really big deal, this syllabus is going to be something that will be as ours as possible. You know? It's a sign that we get to know each other better now, and that we are coming to understand each other easier now. And with that information and with what we can do with that information, we can really make some changes. And that's a very exciting thing. Thank you so much for sticking with me through these videos. I know it's a lot of information. I know that some of it is really triggering, of course, because of the context of the video, and I really appreciate that y'all stuck around and y'all watched this. So there's one more thing I gotta ask of you. I need y'all to share these videos at the same time to as many people as you think need to see this. If you think there's someone not getting the story straight, send them this video. If you think that there's someone who feels that they're alone and doesn't have anywhere to go, send them this video. If you think that there's just someone that you want to give answers to because they've been asking you so many questions and charging so much emotional labor and you don't want to deal with that, send them this video. Hopefully this video has all of the things that you need to give people the entry level, quote unquote, idea of what happened in Orlando, of why it happened, and what's being done about it so far. Please share this video to whoever you think needs to see it. I'm just going to be transparent here about it. This video was a lot. Probably one of the hardest videos I've had to make, but it will mean so much and it will be so worth it if y'all make sure as many people see this video as possible. Well, at least I hope that it's one of the ways that we can really preserve some of who we are, a part that they can't take from us. We know who they are. There will be more videos coming. I'm just going to need to take a real break from this world for a while. I'm really gonna need to unwind for a day or two before I get back into it. That being said, please take whatever self-care you can. Drink water, do your best to get some nutrition and to sustain yourself. Have fun when you can have fun. Be in love when you can be in love, and not in love if you don't want to be, and all that wonderful, cool, layered, multi-dimensional stuff that makes us so wonderful. If there's anything in life that gives you that joy and gives you that peace for a while, take it. You know, I think in one way or another, so many of us have already earned it. Yeah, I'll be back soon, and we'll keep this going. We'll keep taking care of each other in this way, and I think we'll be all right. That being said, I witness you, I love you, and I lift you. This is V to E. Peace.